industry is thought to be worth about £40 billion worldwide, and it's been big business since the 1980s, with these some of the favourites from back then. But they weren't all hits, and this one is thought to be the worst of all time. E.T. was a huge movie which came out in 1982, and games developers wanted to cash in on it. Developers Atari designed and made the E.T. video game in just a few weeks, and they paid over $20 million for the rights. But it was a massive flop. So how bad is the game? Well, I've got one here in front of me right now, and Gordon, a gaming expert, is having a go. You're not doing too well, are you? Just lie there. Gordon, why is it such a flop?
I think there's a few reasons. Firstly, the game is extremely repetitive. You wander around the maze and you seem to flick back between the same screen. It doesn't really represent the film. If they had been given more time, I'm sure we would have got a much better product.
Loads were left unsold, so Atari had to get rid of them somehow. At the time, it was reported that millions of copies were taken into the New Mexico desert in America and buried. Now, more than 30 years on, a team of documentary makers have found the site, and after a few hours of digging, they found a huge stash of these rejected games. Well, it's thought that there could be hundreds of thousands more copies of the E.T. game buried somewhere in the desert, and it's a highly unusual way of getting rid of video games. But I've got to say, I rather like it. Come on.
My name's Gordon Sinclair, and here are my top 5 worst ever video games. Number 1, cassette 50 on the ZX Spectrum. You'd think 50 games on one cassette would be a good thing, but each one of these was terrible. You spent more time loading the games than you did playing them. Number 2, Rise of the Robots on the Amiga. Beautiful to look at, but terrible to play, and you could beat every character by repeating the same move over and over. Number 3, Superman on the Nintendo 64. Terrible graphics and confusing gameplay made this superhero no fun at all. Number 4, Bubsy 3D on the PlayStation. This game so wanted to be Super Mario, but most people just couldn't get past how annoying the character was. And number 5, E.T. on the Atari 2600. Terrible, repetitive gameplay and just a really bad interpretation of a great film.
This is Geek, a retro games festival in Margate. All sorts of ancient consoles. We're filming here for a piece about the history of the console after the PS4 launch.
I didn't read it, no, I mean I tried before, but
this shows that people are still interested in the simple kind of games. You look back at these consoles, we've got consoles going back to 1977 here, where you had one button, up, down, left, right controls, and that was all you had. And I think we're seeing more of that now. The mobile market is bringing a lot more simplicity into the games.
Join us at 6 for more on the BBC News. It's evolved over 4 decades into a product that's won a place in millions of living rooms. Now the video games console is at the heart of an entertainment industry that rivals Hollywood. But where does it go next? According to Sony, the PlayStation 4 is the future of gaming, though last night all it was showing was the new controller rather than the console itself. Sony was the dominant force in consoles. PlayStation 1, launched in 1994, racked up more than 100 million sales. From 2000, the PS2 did it better, selling more than 155 million. PlayStation 3, with a stiffer competition since its 2006 launch, has sold just over 70 million. Here's somewhere you'll find plenty of excitement about new consoles, a retro games event in Margate.
Oh, what a job!
More people of all ages are playing games than ever before, but they're finding different and cheaper ways of playing on smartphones and tablet computers, for instance, and that could spell trouble for the console.
We've got consoles all the way back to Boogie Boy and the Commodore 64 from 1987.
The man who's supplied this event with hundreds of games machines has detected a shift in the industry.
The smartphone and tablet market has drastically changed things, and people are less likely to spend £50 on the new FIFA if they can pick up a football game on a mobile.
Just about everyone here has a console or two at home, but there were mixed views about their future.
whether it's the Call of Duties, the Vivas, the RPG games. I think we're always going to have the console games.
I don't use consoles that much, but I do use my phone quite a lot for gaming.
Sony and its rivals are betting that the console will have a new future as an all-purpose entertainment device. But making money from gaming just keeps getting harder. Rory Catherine-Jones, BBC News.
Hi, I'm Gordon Sinclair. I'm from Replay Events, and we put on large-scale expos and video game events for the history of video gaming. So we pick up consoles and systems from the 1970s right up to the modern stuff. So we don't pick on a particular genre or era. We celebrate the whole history of video gaming. So I'll show you some of the systems we've got here today. We've got the original Atari 2600. This was released in 1977. The game we're running on is Tapper, which is a bartending game. The 2600 was hugely popular in the United States and kick-started the video game revolution. Next to that we've got the Atari Jaguar, much less popular than the 2600 was. Some would call it a failed system, but there are still some gems on there, some games that are unique to this system, and the one we're running at the moment, Tempest, is certainly one of the highlights for that system. Moving on, we've got the Neo Geo AES. This is a Japanese-only console that games would cost you somewhere around £150 each. It's virtually an arcade machine within a console, so it was the only way you could play arcade games in your own home when it was first released. Due to the price, it wasn't massively popular over here, but you could get hold of these back in the late 80s, early 90s. Next we've got the classic Xbox. You know, everybody knows what Xbox is. We have lots of these running around the Expo for competitions and other things. So this one's running Dead or Alive. Then we have the PS2 running a number of fighting games, a number of shooter games on the PS2. Not sure what that one is, but it's good fun. And then we've got the classic PS1 running Tomb Raider. So yeah, we have games from all eras and vast number of systems all around the stall, so check them out.